Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome back to the Movie Battleground for something a little different than what we normally do. So, first off, for all of you who ever gave me shit, I would like to brag. I changed my light bulb. No more chance of a stroke. You're welcome. Second off, for those of you who pay attention to the schedules I post and have a bit of a keen eye, you will notice that what should have probably been going up in this slot was the final match of the 1-0 bracket, which was between Evan DeGraff and Tyler Burch. And obviously, as you can see by the title of that video, that match is not happening. So before I explain what happened, I kind of want to talk about the tournament in general. This has been a huge learning experience for me as a producer because for as many things as we've had gone right, and I think we've had some incredible matches, whether it be, we've had a couple of competitors get knocked out and then they've come back in their second match and you've seen growth in players, or some of the barn burner back and forth matches we've had. We've had a lot of entertaining stuff happen thus far. But behind the scenes, we've also had a couple of matches that just haven't gone smoothly. You guys will notice for a tournament that had a bracket prediction, we've had probably far too many switch outs or changes or different things that we could do. And I tried to get creative with those as much as possible. But the simple fact of the matter is, in hindsight, having people sign up for a Battleground tournament in May that launches in August, that upload wise will run through to the new year, probably wasn't the best idea, because at the end of the day, life is life and you never know what it's going to throw at you. And that's part of the reason why we've had so many switch outs of different competitors. A prime example of that was the match you saw on Thursday between Austin Howell and Henry Sanchez. Now, full disclosure, that match has already aired, but it has not been recorded, so I don't know who won at the time of us recording this. But that match is an example of, we started out with two competitors who, for their own individual reasons, had to drop. We brought in two other competitors who then, for their own individual reasons, had to drop. And then we brought in two initial replacements, and one of them then, because of work schedule, became unavailable, which is how Henry found himself in that match. And so that's probably the worst example of a production issue thus far, but it's not the only match where we've had to switch competitors out. Obviously, Jay Burns, who played Henry in his first match and is now in the second round of the tournament against Amaru, he was a last minute entry because we unfortunately lost Grant because, and again, congratulations to him, but he got married. That's not something I could have predicted in May. I didn't even know the guy was engaged. He might have been. I just didn't know it because I don't ask for every detail of my players' lives. And that is what it is. So it's there's been a lot of great moments, and I think there's a lot of great moments to come. As I've said, and again, if you didn't know this, in order to give kind of everyone involved a break over the Christmas break, we're pre-recording everything until like middle January before Christmas break happens. So pretty much all of the quarterfinals matches that we're going to talk about in a little bit are either set to be recorded in the next week or have already been recorded. I'm not going to give you any indication as to what's happened, but that's where we're at. And so we've had a lot of successes and a lot of great matches, and there are great matches to come. But I also just want to be open and say this has been a learning experience for me, and I've understood that there were mistakes made in the setup of this that I will never make again, so that I can deliver a more consistent product to you guys, because that's what this is all about for me, is delivering a good product to people to enjoy. Because quite frankly, I wouldn't be fucking doing this if I didn't think people liked it, which is the impression I'm getting so far, I hope. I don't know. Maybe the comments will tell me otherwise. The like ratio has been pretty solid. Although, funny enough, the match with the most dislikes was the one I played in. So I don't know if that's me or if that's because we tried something different with it. Either way, another example of a scheduling issue causing us to make a change. So to talk about the match that should have been tonight, Evan DeGraff versus Tyler Burch. I'm not going to go into the details of it because he's a friend of mine and I don't feel at liberty to speak on behalf of him. But to put it lightly, the last few weeks leading up to this match have been a little rough for Evan. We've been in the process of trying to set a record date for nearly a month. and he's had a couple of different personal incidents come up that have stopped this match from happening, culminating in the record time, the day of recording, which was supposed to be right now. His brother was in a car wreck. Now, the only reason I say that is because thankfully his brother is okay. He will make a full recovery from any of the small injuries he had. But the simple matter of fact is Evans just had it rough the last few weeks. And so because of that, and because we are now on a tight time frame with recording, obviously with the exception of that Henry Austin match I alluded to, everything else has been recorded, and we've already begun recording the next round. I'm simply out of time to try and find more replacements, and I'm out of players who lost but did well enough in terms of basic statistics to earn a second match. At that point, it'd just be texting everyone and going, hey, who's free and willing to do this? With that said, I see Jake in the background, and he probably would have said yes, but it's not fair to everybody else. So I've made the decision as the producer to take Evan out of the tournament, simply because, like I said, it's been a rough few weeks for him personally, and as someone who is also his friend, I don't want somebody who's gone through what he went through earlier today with, dealing with what might have happened to his brother, and him also messaging me with legitimate apologies for missing a debate match, because that's not what this is. This should be fun. This should be something you do in your free time. I consume your free time with prep if you prepare, but it should be something that's done for fun in your free time, and I don't need anybody feeling guilty because they can't show up, because family has to come first, always. Quote Dominic Toretto. I don't know if that's actually said in those films, but it might have been. And so with that said, I'm not going to put a win or a loss on either of their records, but Evan is being pulled out of the match of the tournament, and I am going to progress Tyler on. He'll remain with a 1-0 record, as will Evan, which means Tyler will play Medee or Raymond in the next round of the tournament. But Evan will return next year sometime once we begin scheduling matches for those outside of the tournament. I just felt it best to not pressure him anymore at this time to try and get a match record in, and just, it is what it is, let it be, and Tyler will get that opportunity to progress because, like I said, it's a 32-person tournament. We've had dropouts, production dates ran close, and I'm out of options. So Tyler will get that benefit of the doubt to progress, and may he make the best of it. So that was a somber as fuck intro. Let's have some fun with this. I have 4 guys in the background who are not my producers, by the way. I do want to give a shout out to Matt Beer, Henry Sanchez, Kevin Poss, and Jacob West for doing a lot of work as well in helping me run the production of these matches and making sure everything is set. But none of those fucks were available tonight. So instead, I got 4 guys behind the scenes who have not only been involved in a number of productions, but I know some of them are also actively watching the productions. And instead, we're going to take this time to do a bit of a shorter video, but we're going to talk about these upcoming matches in the quarterfinals of both the brackets and give you guys, the viewers, kind of just a rundown of where everything's at, who's playing who, and what's left on the table. So bringing them into the call in the order they show up on my StreamYard, I am joined by Jake Reese, Noah Mccosland, Austin Howell, who I like tonight, and Jacob Barber. Guys, how's it going?
I'll actually smile for you tonight, Aaron. How about that? Is that fair enough?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
All right.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
First off, thank you for giving your time to be here. I appreciate having you guys here to just kind of have some fun discussion about it. So we are in the quarterfinals of both of these brackets. A majority of these matches, because I have the exhibitions that'll be airing over Christmas, will begin airing in 2021. But with that said, I figured it'd be fun to kind of talk about them and get into it. So I'll go ahead and pull up our 0-1 bracket, which we'll start with, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in for you guys so we can see everything better. And our first match is between Andy Sweet and Matt Beer up there. Obviously, to kind of recap their progress so far, Andy played a 2-time debate champ in previous leagues, Ryan Permison, and lost in a very close game to him. He then went on to defeat Mr. Jake Tato down there to move on to the second round. In Matt Beer's case, he was, as you passive aggressively saw in my match, a last minute entrant stepping in for a player who stepped out to play Mehdi Raymond. He lost that match and then went on to knock out JD Domash, proving that with prep, Matt can debate. So Andy and Matt will play each other. So this is a thing where no one is at liberty to speak. You don't have to speak on everyone, but if anyone has any thoughts on the matchup, go ahead and give them now.
Yeah, both those guys suck. one of them beat me in a debate. One of them beat me in fantasy football, and they can both frig off.
All right, something more positive, maybe. Let's go.
No, I will say this, Matt. Given the fact that both you, Aaron, who we'll get to in a second down in the thing, and Matt both had very little to no time to prep for your matches, I find it interesting that both winners. You know, I mean, I think it goes to kind of natural debate skills as well. So, I mean, that's always a skill that's good to possess. You know, the fact that you been and kind of even if you have to bullshit your way through an argument, you know, that's kind of what debate is all about in certain instances.
Yeah, speaking of
Noah, Jacob, anything? You guys ready to move on?
Yeah, no, speaking of BSing through a debate, I mean, that's kind of what Andy had to do to win, because, you know, the last question of his match was, what's the most unique A24 film? And he picked Spring Breakers over Tusk. And BSing your way through an argument and and you know, it just goes to show that if you prepare enough and you can, you know, just have a good argument, even though Tusk is the more unique.
Are you fucking joking me?
Hey, you had your time. Even though Tusk is he had the better argument.
No, that's the better argument wins, Jacob. To your point,
yeah.
I judged a match with Evan, who unfortunately had to drop out, where they had to argue in a blind round what's the best Adam Sandler movie. But of course, he didn't know that until afterwards. So he picks Grown Ups, and I think it was Steve Mesa picks Uncut Gems. Somebody had a correct answer there, and yet Evan DeGraff bullshitted his way to a win and had the better argument and slam dunked all over Mesa. So it can happen. It's all about, and especially if the judges are listening to the arguments and not just having a personal biased, you know, answer in their head. It's about the argument sometimes, you know, to be fair. That's what it is about.
And that's something as a judge that I've been on multiple matches as a judge that I kind of try to find myself reminding myself, don't pick the best answer, what they chose. Just you have to choose the better argument.
You got to listen. You just have to listen. Yeah. Whoever can do it.
I'd say it's what I pay you guys to do, but I don't pay shit. So moving on to the next match, we have Sean Hunter versus Abel DeLu. Again, to kind of quickly recap, if you guys haven't seen their matches, Sean Hunter made his debut against a former Movie Battleground champion in Grant Gregory, who again was one of the unfortunate dropouts of the tournament. Sean took him to the limits, but was unable to pull out the victory in that match. He then went on to play Jonathan Peck, who he beat pretty solidly and moved on against. Abel DeLu was one of our fill-in players, filling in for a player who had to drop out. He played Shannon Briggs in what was obviously one of only 2 blind round matches in our initial 14 matches of this tournament. And again, Abel just kind of a bit of mixture of knowing how to talk and having the right answers at the right times, was able to pull out that debut win. So again, thoughts on Sean versus Abel, if you guys know about them or what you guys think.
I feel like just like the TMG Geek channel over there, that Abel is someone to watch. I think his strength lies in preparation. He felt like he had a very formulaic script that he had out and he was reading, but when it came time to debate, I feel like that's something he was a little bit weaker on. So it's going to be interesting to see what Sean has for him. But I definitely think he's someone to watch, and if I progress that far, I'd hate to go against him.
Yeah, and I will say preparation is 100% key. I can give some, if I think of something, I can give some fun behind the scenes tidbits. For anyone who watched the TM Geek match where Abel, as the 16 seed, upset the number 1 seed, Ryan Payne,
Dude, that was dope.
He did that by Payne getting a Transformers category, and that happened because Abel decided he was prepping for that match and the Battleground at the same time. The Battleground went up much later, but he was prepping at the same time for them and decided to go with Transformers to kill two birds with one stone. So he was ready for the debate on it and the trivia, and he was able to capitalize on those steals. So he definitely does have the preparation bit down. Any other thoughts on Sean versus Abel, or are you guys ready to move on?
Noah brought up a nice point about Abel having a style that I don't personally prescribe to when I fight, but about having like a kind of scripted opening or a scripted kind of for your part when you're talking by yourself as opposed to the face-to-face. And I don't do that personally, but I know it works for some people. When I face Chad Webb, he has kind of the same style, of like sort of writing his thoughts out in a linear fashion. I prefer to just write some bullet points and kind of speak from the heart and kind of see what comes. But, whether or not that translates to when you're actually faced against somebody in the back and forth round and having to come up with stuff on the fly. I mean, some people are good at it. Maybe some people not so good at it. But, the scripted stuff can only go so far. So it's one of the things where you have to hone your skills and really listen to the other competitor in the back and forth.
Agreed. Abel is very much from the paper and excuse me, from the paper. If he works on the more improvising and shit, he'll be fine. And I owe that guy twice because he beat me in Geek and he beat me in Teams.
And for what it's worth, for anybody watching this who's thinking, wow, they're speaking very freely, someone could use this. Most of these matches will be recorded by the time this goes up. They're not recorded yet, but they will be recorded by the time this goes up. So there's nothing any of these competitors can gain against their opponent by what these guys say. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and move down, and I'll kind of move it over a little bit here because, we do have, as I said, the last match yet to record, the kind of second chance slot in our tournament because of all the production F-ups. Obviously, you guys have already seen it. If you watch everything as it goes up. But Austin Howe won the second chance playoff against Shannon Briggs. When unfortunately we passed that threshold where Linus also couldn't record, we decided, we dropped him out. I'd initially reached out to Shannon and said, if you think you can make this work, because we'd lost a couple of days from that one question playoff to when I reached out to him, it'd been a few days less. And with the time frame that was left, he didn't think he could prepare properly, so he opted to stay out, which I was totally fine with. And so my thought process behind putting Henry in, because obviously we played that as a little bit, again, more of a fun, because me and Austin hate each other, I stuck Henry in there to try and take him out.
Sure. Sick the dogs on me. That's right.
Shannon kind of killed two birds with one stone, where Shannon not only was the only competitor who went to the blind round, and actually at the time of this recording, he is the only competitor who's gone to the blind round twice. Every other player has either never done it or they've only done it one time. In both of his matches, he went to the blind round. But Shannon also played a last-minute substitute in Abel DeLu. Henry was the only other competitor prior to these last two match changes that played a last-minute competitor, where it was supposed to be Grant. That match was in prep for well over a month, and then eventually it reached a point where Grant just couldn't do it. We dropped him out. Jay came in, Jay won. So Austin hit one of the criteria that qualified Shannon for a second chance. Henry hit the other. I just figured in the match, it was more fun to explain it as I want Henry to kick his ass rather than to go through all of that in the recording. So as said, that match hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to throw it to you guys with who do you think is going to win between Henry and Austin, and then move that on to the winner of that plays Kevin Moreno, which to reaccount him, Kevin played Jeremy Adams, who, as you guys know by this point, is the number one statistical player in the league. He's 2-0 with 2 knockouts. He knocked Kevin Moreno out. And then Kevin went into the 0-1 bracket where he took on Steve Mesa, who was probably the heavy favorite to win that match just off of their first matches. But Kevin really stepped his game up between match 1 and match 2, and he took the W and moved on. So what are your guys' thoughts on that matchup?
Well, I'm not picking a winner because it's tough. It's tough.
Man, both those guys suck.
Could you stop interrupting me? We're not debating, Jake. It could easily go either way. Austin, he beat me, and he earned that victory. He really did. I'm not gonna say he didn't. He absolutely did because he listens. I'm gonna talk about you like you're not here, Austin.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just cover my face like this, and you can just no, it's okay. I'll put my hand up like that.
He hears your points, and he'll take them down. Whether what he's saying is true or not, he says it like he believes it, and he just hounds on them. But Henry is very good at bringing up good points. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in that match is Henry's going to bring up the good points. Austin's gonna, take him down, and it's just gonna be a good back and forth.
My goal is to throw him off with my sincerity, if that makes any sense, because I will counter with my sincerity and hopefully ruin his train of thought of whatever he throws at me with his facts. If I simply disagree with some kind of point, it might just cause him to stumble. But that's a whole other issue. Yeah,
I feel like that might work for you after him going against Jay. So,
yeah.
So there's that one. So Noah, since you were there, what do you think about that matchup?
I honestly can't pick because I've seen both Austin's match against Chad, and I was also against Henry as well. Henry bulldozes. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's after, and he goes for it. It was unfortunate for him that he went up against Jay, just like I was in the TFG Geek league over there. But it's really hard to pick because Austin did a great job against Chad, and honestly, taking my personal bias away for Chad because Chad is I've become friends with him. It's hard to honestly pick who would have run some of those rounds. So it's hard to pick a winner.
Yeah, because Austin could easily be in the winner's bracket still because it all depends on who's judging that day too.
Yeah.
That
is probably one of the most coin flip matches in terms of the great equalizer in all of this is the qualification for judging is, hey, who's free? So any different combination of people, and it might have run a different way for him. I will say, Noah, if it's any consolation, when the next time I saw Jay after he played you, and I brought up that he played the match, all he could talk about was how bad he felt that he beat you in that manner.
I didn't prepare as well as I should have, and I got questions wrong that I should have. I got both Wizarding World and Lord of the Rings questions wrong. So,
all right, and then
and just a final. Oh, Jake can take another shot.
Go ahead.
No, look, and to be fair, again, I think it's a fair point that yes, no, I lost Chad, and I accept that. But yeah, I think anybody who does actually sit down and watch that match, and it's got a whole lot of views right now, significantly. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying I think the reputation of the match has kind of shown that. You know what I mean? Is that people have checked it out, and I've heard with so many people that either one of us could have won that match, and even the individual rounds, like the ones I won. Some people thought he won. Ones that he ended up winning, some people thought I could have won. It was literally, like you were saying, one of the most coin flip matches. I even felt it at the time recording that match that I didn't even know where the judges were going to go afterwards. And I would have hated to be a judge for that match for my own thing, trying to decide some of those questions. It would have been tough.
Absolutely. And then I'll do a quick run around, and then we'll move on to get to the last match in this bracket. But whoever does come out of that first match, how do you think Kevin Moreno holds up against him?
I'll be honest. Kevin's been improving. I was there when I judged his first match against Jeremy. I don't know if I was there for a second one, but I feel sorry for him. Sorry, bud.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a good time, but he could win. He could do it.
He could. He absolutely could, because I think it wasn't just a case of like, oh, he did better. Like, no, he took that first match as a learning experience and really stepped it up, and I think we saw that improvement. And so with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the last match there. And speaking of somebody who took a bad loss and made it to an improvement, we have Noah Mccosland, who, as he just referenced in his debut match, was knocked out by Henry. It was the first knockout of the league. Hey, you can wear that on your shoulder at least, no matter where you go. And then he took that and he took it into a match against Jacob West, who is a former champ in other debate leagues. I believe he's a two-time champ in other debate leagues, who had already suffered a tough loss against Jordan Owens in his first match. And Noah decisively won over Jacob. It didn't even go to the blind round. Jacob lost that match fair and square. And Noah goes up against myself, who, as you guys saw in the match, basically to kind of explain the behind the scenes of that one a bit more, Jordan Anderson was supposed to play Chris Diaz. It became very evident that because of his schedule, between his work hours and the work that he puts into his own YouTube channel, it was just very difficult to find a match. And so after scheduling 2 or 3 dates that got shifted, it reached a point where I kind of just put it on the table and I said, hey, look, do you want to play or do you want to come out? What do we want to do? And so Jordan stepped out. Hopefully we'll be able to have him back at some point in the future, but right now it's looking like that's not on the table, but anything can change at any time. Obviously we don't record until next year for players not in the tournament, so anything goes. But with him stepping out, we needed to come up with somebody to fill in. Chris had already had the questions for a few weeks. He'd already put the complete prep into getting them ready. And so the answer we came up with was, I said, okay, I'd be willing to play you on these questions. The only thing I asked is if I could change my answers from what Jordan had originally put. And so that is why, despite the fact that we attempted to make it appear as though I was being put in last minute, I very clearly had prepped for the match, because I did prep for the match. I had about a week's worth of time to prep. Shout out to Mr. Austin down there and Matt Beer. I brought both of them in, and I thought, okay, so we did this poll where people voted on, do we want everything based off stats? Do we want to use things that happen in game to attempt to make this interesting and come up with fun ways to schedule it? The second option won the poll, so I thought this is a perfect way to actually demo test this in the field and see how it goes. And so we came up with the bit that we had where Austin made some snarky comments to me at the end of his last match. And so him and Matt, who obviously got put into a match last minute, that was real, decided that I was going to play against Chris in order to fill the slot that Jordan left behind. It went over mostly okay, I think. I had some people who had a bit of reservation about it. I know the editing was a little slightly choppy on my end. I think the intro ended up being around 6 or 7 minutes. Originally, it was nearly 10 minutes worth of footage, so I cut the odd thing or here out where I thought the same point was kind of
release the Connell cut.
Huh? Release
the Connell cut, the Connell cut. Yeah.
So I snipped it down a little bit, just the odd barber jest here or there where I thought the same thing was being explained twice. We were kind of freestyling it a little bit. We did plan it ahead of time, but not like literally scripted it. So there were some pauses that I chopped out as well to kind of shrink it. And I think it went over mostly okay. As I said jokingly earlier, it is technically the video with the worst like to dislike ratio, and that's 5 likes to 2 dislikes, since dislikes aren't public anymore. So it's not like it's that bad, but it is technically the most disliked video that we've had. Generally, they go 100% like ratio, which is pretty good. So that match is what it is. I'm playing Noah. Noah, you can talk shit all you like. I'm going to abstain because I think you're a great guy. We both know from talking before we recorded this that we've put the same amount of prep in thus far. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining match. But what are your guys' thoughts on me versus Noah?
I'm looking forward to it. I judged Noah's first match, and even in that match, he was getting better as he was going against Henry. I felt. So I did not watch you versus Chris yet, but as someone who's watched, you've been a part of every match so far, so I feel like you know what you're doing.
I have been there. That's the one thing that everybody, if you guys don't know this, because obviously there have been matches that I haven't hosted for various reasons. I have actually been there for every single recording, even if it's just me listening in the background and not actively producing it. I have been there for everything so far, even if I'm not on camera. And in some of them, if you pay attention, the host, whoever's hosting it, specifically Henry, was the worst at this because he did it both times he's hosted, are speaking to me like I'm clearly there, even though I'm not, which is pretty funny. So Austin, Jake, Noah, any thoughts on that matchup before we?
No, I'll second what Jacob said. I think because I obviously in kind of storyline I judged that match, but I was also for real judging that match. Again, this is kind of a pull back the curtain, behind the scenes sort of video. I'm not playing up a character right now, so it's kind of just dropping the facade for a minute. All joking aside, like I thought you did very well. Like it was, I think, hosting this show, I mean, you do pick up sort of tips and tricks on kind of how things work, and it's kind of experience even without playing. So yeah, I mean, I think you and Noah are going to have a good match. I think you're pretty evenly matched, and I think it should be pretty entertaining overall. It's interesting. I hadn't heard of you talk about the feedback that our sort of kayfabe storyline kind of explanation at the beginning, has had, which I find interesting. I think it might have just thrown people off because they're so used to just kind of, here's the match, here's the people. I do character work and I cut promos and things, but like it's not, but it's still like a real battleground thing. And maybe it just threw people off as far as like, oh, well, now this match has like a storyline, and you don't really do like storylines unless kind of natural ones flow out of matches, people from other leagues or, the personal feuds or whatever. But, it's an experiment. Maybe we'll play around with it some more in the future and see what happens. And maybe we won't, but we'll just stick it to the character work that we do kind of in the promos and things. We'll see.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on?
It will be fun.
I honestly think you're going to win, but that's just me.
Thanks for the vote of confidence. I'll take that.
I believe in you, Noah.
Don't defeat yourself before you go in.
Even though I think you're gonna win, I'm still gonna make it hard for you if I'm gonna bring the heat. So.
Oh, please.
Can I say
I haven't given up. I haven't given up.
We haven't recorded the match yet, so full disclosure, I don't know if I'm going to beat Henry or not. Maybe not. If it got to the point we talked about, it'd be pretty amazing if, according to those brackets, I ended up playing Aaron. That would be pretty, like, not to where people would think it was scripted to that point, to where it all led to that with how our interactions have been, going forward. But it would be pretty amazing. It would be something.
There's two interesting lineups there, because if I win and you win 2 in a row, then we play each other. And on the vice versa, if Noah gets the W and then Henry wins 2 in a row, he is the first rematch of the league, rematching with Henry.
If it's Pez versus Aaron, I get to write the questions.
Oh God, no.
That is why we have 4 other producers to handle that job. Let's go ahead and move on.
Well, or it could be Aaron versus Henry if it goes that way as well, which would again still be interesting. So like there's three very, very interesting scenarios like that could come out of that whole bracket.
I love Henry to death, but that man, I think if he ends up playing me, I think just because he wants the bragging rights of saying he beats the guy who runs the thing, that he would bring everything he has.
So there's 3 unique scenarios, but they all make for like really interesting kind of through lines. They just all do. I mean, anything could happen.
I feel like inadvertently, even though I've never claimed to actually be that good at this, beating me is a thing because I am the guy that runs it. So you can say you beat the guy who ran it. So Noah, you'll have 2 of those if you win. You'll have I'm the first person to lose by knockout, and I'm the first person to beat the guy who runs it.
That's true. That's true.
You'll get 2 of those. So let's go ahead and get into the 1-0 bracket. And I'm actually going to start at the bottom and work my way up on this one. And we will get to the matchup that we discussed earlier. Obviously, Tyler Burch moving on through producer intervention with my decision to take Evan out of the tournament for his own personal reasons. So Tyler is going to move on. He does, as I said earlier, but in case you missed it, he does retain a record of 1-0, as does Evan retain a record of 1-0. I felt that even though I was making a producer intervention for the sake of the tournament, it was not fair that Tyler should get a win nor Evan should get a loss. For what it's worth, Tyler 100% agreed with me when we were in discussion about it. He didn't want a win, and he certainly didn't want Evan to go 1-1 because of everything that's happened. And I do want to give publicly Tyler a lot of credit because he's been great over the course of the production of this match, you know, with the constant start stops and everything happening. He's just been very reserved and just what happens happens. Life is life. We'll get there when we get there. So he's been really great. And obviously it'll be a while longer before he gets back into this, but he does play MB Raymond. To recap the matches, Tyler obviously has the 1 match against JD Domash, one of our earlier matches where Tyler came out the victor. MB Raymond is now 2-0 after taking on Matt Beer in a match that he won. He then went on to play Ryan Permison in our most recent officially inaugurated and titled doubled upload event, which I'm calling the Battleground Blitz. As I said, proper graphics for that will be happening by the next time it happens, hopefully. But MB beat Ryan in that match as well. And at 2-0, this is the best record MB's ever had. He's been a debater for a long time, but he lost a shit ton before he got good, so he's never had a 2-0 record. And now he goes on to play Tyler. What are your guys' thoughts on this, if you have any?
MB beat the fuck out of me in sports debate a while ago. So I know he can do debate things. Not overly familiar with Tyler, but I'm going to pick MB just because if I'm going to be beat by someone, you better fucking win.
All right. Anyone else have thoughts on it?
I'm just going to say I got to head out. It's getting a little late for me. I got an early morning tomorrow. So see y'all. Thank
you, man. Appreciate you for being here. We are recording this a little late at night, guys, and he told me ahead of time he might have to dip out. But I do want to say thank you, Noah, for being here. I appreciate your time. Austin, Jacob, any thoughts on Tyler MB before we move on?
I'm not as familiar with either one of these guys. I watched one of MB's matches, and yeah, if what you say is true, like he seemed like a really solid debate guy, like really confident. And I don't know if what you said, like he used to maybe not be as such, or maybe be a little grockier. But I mean, if he's got a 2-0 record now, I mean that's got to be a big boost to confidence.
The one I remember is because he was one of our competitors who. He played from the OG days all the way through when the show went on hiatus. And if I remember correctly, his record was something insane, like 3-7 or something, because he just took a bunch of losses at the start and then started getting some wins in there. And so he certainly turned it around now with 2-0. It's interesting. Jacob, any thoughts, or you want to move on?
I'm not as familiar with these two, so.
All right. So then we move up 1 to Jordan Owens versus Jeremy Adams. As I said earlier, at this point in time, because no matter what the win between Henry or Austin, neither of them can go 2-0 with 2 knockouts. Jeremy Adams is the number 1 statistical player in the league at 2-0 with 2 knockouts. He knocked out Kevin Moreno before moving on and knocking out Alec Miller, also in a match that was a part of our Battleground Blitz event. And he takes on Jordan Owens, who, as I touted in his match, was the only rookie in our inaugural set of matches to be paired against a former debate champion, that being Papa West, and he won that match. All of 5 of our previous debate champions played rookies. 4 of them beat the rookies. Jordan was the only one to get the win. Since then, Noah technically has also become the second rookie by beating Jacob West, which unfortunately means I'm continuing to shit on Jacob West, despite the fact that we all love Papa. But it is what it is. That's the way the breaks went. And so we have Jordan Owens versus Jeremy Adams. And what I'm going to say on this match is It's not going to be a knockout. I don't see a world in which, based on how Jordan's performed, he's going to get knocked out by Jeremy. But at this point, I think, I've said it from the get-go. My belief back in the day was that Jeremy was the best debater we had to never win a title. And right now he is making a case for potentially winning that title and shaking that title off of him. He's been absolutely stellar in both of these matches. So Jordan has a mountain to climb, but I don't think he's going to get knocked out.
Jordan is low key. His demeanor and like his sort of relaxed nature kind of throws you off and thinks he's not going to be like really good. But he's low key really strong. Like his match with Papa, like his performance was really good. So it kind of throws you off, like because he's not big and he's not a bulldozer like Henry or myself or whoever. He just kind of casually, calmly makes his points. He makes good, solid points, and then he wins over judges. So like, I mean, while Jeremy is a like you said, a mountain to climb, like he's kind of a brick wall that Jordan's running into, I think he's still got a shot. Like I think it'll be a really a better match than people probably think it will be. Like for
Tell
sure.
you what, I'll take JPO.
All right, he takes Jordan. Jacob, I know you're buddies with Jordan. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I am, yeah. I agree with everything Austin just said. I think this match could rival Austin and Chad for match of the tournament. Yeah, Jordan knows his stuff. We'll do trivia matches, and then once the recording is done, if Jordan's not busy, we'll be on the call for another hour and a half just talking movies. He enjoys talking movies, and I think when it's in a debate style, I think he just ups it enough. And Jeremy obviously knows his stuff. 2 knockouts, that's pretty good. Yeah. But this, like you said, this isn't going to be a knockout. I think this could be match of the tournament, rivaling Austin and Chad. And I'm not going to pick a winner because it's tough. It's tough.
If I could make a prediction, I predict this one goes to the blind round. That's my prediction for this match. Like I think it'll be a 2-2 blind round.
Which at that point, Jordan technically would have the advantage because Jeremy's never done that. Mm-hmm. And for those of you guys who are watching us who have been watching long enough to have seen some of the older matches, you guys will remember that the blind round is a completely new concept to this revamp of Battleground. Jeremy would be more used to what's known as the speed round, which is currently being reserved only for number one contenders matches and title matches. So Jordan would have the advantage if he can take it to the blind round. From there, it's just all about the pure debate skill. And I think you guys are all correct. Both of these guys, I think Jeremy less so because he has that record of 2-0 with 2 knockouts, but both of them have a very calm demeanor with how they approach this. They don't have the I'm going to get in your face and bulldoze. That's just not their demeanor about how they approach it, which I think is rather interesting. But yeah, you're right. Like I think Jeremy is intimidating because of his record, but I think Jordan is a great matchup to really test it. And I think if Jeremy can beat Jordan, that will cement him as a favorite to win this. Because, and this is not to take it one step further, but Medee would have a better shot. Like if Tyler goes up against Jeremy, I don't know how that one shakes out because Tyler has a lot less experience than Jeremy. And I don't know if Medee and Jeremy ever played back in the day because they've been debating as long as each other, but that would certainly be an interesting one if it happened. But yeah, Jordan is a good opponent to potentially kind of ruin this one. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll up.
I feel like that could be the nicest match we have too.
Yeah, the most cordial. Yeah, the most cordial match.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
You first.
Jeremy's record makes him seem worse than he is. He's such a sweetheart of a human being. He's the only person I've seen that while in the process of knocking you out is also encouraging you to continue going and fighting till the end. And like, no, come on, you've got this. Like it'd be real intimidating if he played on it more. But so we're going to go into it. So I am not going to speak on this next one because as you guys can see, there are numbers input next to Jay Burns and Amaru Moses. We've recorded this match. So as not to accidentally give any indication as to who wins, I'm not going to say anything. But what are your guys' thoughts on the matchup of Jay Burns and Amaru Moses?
It's a good matchup. Amaru's really strong. I think Amaru's going to be like the surprise of this tournament. He's kind of like, I think he's going to be the dark horse of the tournament to potentially maybe play Jeremy or somebody later in the rounds. I think he's he's come on very, very strong. I mean, maybe it helps that he's now like in the, he's doing this on the side of the Schmodown and stuff too, so like he's a personality, and he's not afraid to get in front of the camera and do his thing. But yeah, he's strong, man. Like I haven't seen the match obviously but even though it's been recorded, but yeah, it's a good match, but I'd give the edge to Amaru.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, this is on the side. Obviously, because we pre-record these, his previous matchup against in the first round, which was against someone whose name I'm blanking on, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and pull this over. It was against Malcolm. Malcolm was who it was against. That was a matter of maybe a week or two after he had played Kalinowski. Maybe 2 weeks after he had played Kalinowski in the Schmodown. So pretty fresh off of it, he went back into that immediately and obviously brought the fire to move on. Jacob, anything before we move on?
I think these two have they have such strong personalities too that it's just going to make for an entertaining match.
Yeah,
I'll say that much. It's entertaining. The fact that these two guys are buddies in real life plays a lot into it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both good talkers. They're both good. They know their stuff. I've been on different matches with Jay. I've had a couple conversations with Amaru, and yeah, they both know their stuff. And I'm just looking forward to being entertained by the match.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Jake, any last thoughts?
Both of these men are personal close friends of mine. No, I'm just fucking around. Jay is a friend. Amaru is a friend on Facebook somehow. It's going to be a great match.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody prep the cane to pull Jake to the side if this gets ugly. But we only have one match
Where's
left.
the Sandman? Yeah.
we only have one match left, and this match will be the first match that uploads of the quarterfinals. So obviously, as was previously announced, over the Christmas break, rather than uploading tournament matches, we're going to be uploading the first set of exhibition matches we're recording to kind of let you guys get an idea of how that looks. But next week, I believe it's Saturday the 18th, Joe Fairley versus Chad Webb will be the first match that uploads. And the final regular match of the season. I figured since we're not going to have a title match before the end of the year, but we do have a competitor in Joe Fairley who still wears the title of honorary champ until we have a champion, whether it be him or somebody else. I figured if a champion's not defending, then I'll at least let the guy who has the title play the last match of the year. So Joe and Chad will be playing. And yeah, this is a hell of a matchup. Obviously, Joe Fairley pretty solidly won both of his matches to date. He has played Jake Reese and Kevin Poss to go 2-0. Chad Webb, on the other hand, took out Jonathan Peck in his debut match, and then obviously went to the literal limit with Austin. I believe that last round was literally blind round split decision. So he took it to the wire as much as he could to move on and play him. And in similar fashion, I think Joe has worn the title for somebody who never got to actually defend his title due to the hiatus the show took. I think Joe has actually worn that honorary champ title pretty well in that he's come in, he's played two competitors, he's had, say what you want about the people he played, because I think both of them did bring solid points to the match. And as Jake will say, he took votes away from Joe. He didn't get stomped like he thought he would. But Joe has pretty confidently handled himself in both of these matches. Chad, meanwhile, I've had some people say to me that Chad could have even possibly had a knockout in that first match that he played. Like it was that third round was that close between him and Jonathan that he could have had a knockout victory. And obviously with Austin, he's gone to the limit now already so early in the tournament that I think if anyone has a chance at beating Joe, it is Chad. But I can't predict who will win this. What are your guys' thoughts on this matchup?
Okay, so I took a vote off of Joe in James Bond, in his shit. I took a point off of this supposedly great champion in my first match. Give me Chazzik Weeb.
Yeah, but he
Okay,
also
get the
pretty
cane
handy.
ready. We're going to send Chazzik Weeb to the same camp Adele Dazeem went to.
Yeah,
Austin, what are your
yeah.
thoughts?
No, yeah, but Joe pretty handily kicked your ass. You gave up that match. I judged it. I was there. You gave up that match. He kicked your ass. Okay, yes, you got a point for
I
Super
will say,
Mario
though,
Brothers. But like,
I've never seen a more solid bonding moment than after that recording when both you and Henry instinctively went, Jake, bro, you fucking just gave up, man, and immediately started trying to help him.
Yeah,
It was very sweet.
yeah, no, we definitely. But anyways, but getting past that, I think like Chad low-key does have a really good chance against Joe. I think it's going to be Joe's most challenging match to date. And again, I'm not like putting myself over. I think Chad facing me has really prepped him well for Joe, because I think I gave him a really, really strong like challenge and really put his feet to the fire, which is what Joe's going to do to him in this match. Joe's going to put the fire to Chad, not in the same style that I do it, but they kind of have the same style of like the prep points that they bring up, having those things kind of written down and prepared. So what I'm looking forward most of that match is going to be the back and forth parts of those, not so much like the solo speaking stuff, but like when they actually go face to face. I think it'll be really interesting to watch. But Joe is not unbeatable. I don't think he is. Like he's 2-0 right now, but I don't think he's unbeatable. I think Chad has a good chance with the way he preps and the way he calmly throws his points out there, that he could definitely get points and put Joe out. But I think it's very, very evenly matched overall. Like I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll agree with that.
Jacob?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. If Chad can play like he did against you, Austin, I think he's got a good shot. I think this goes to the blind round, honestly, and it could go either way. Whoever wins, I will not be surprised.
Yeah. I would say, and obviously this top half, these four guys are so stacked off their performances so far. Joe, Chad, Jay, and Amaru. The fact that they're on the same side, the fact that there is a legitimate chance that only one of them makes it to a title match at the end of all this is pretty interesting. So guys, that is the 8 matches. We're going to begin to wrap this up. And before we do, I wanted to first kind of talk about is something that relates to this. So obviously we are in the quarterfinals, and this will kind of be referenced in the matches as well. But I made a comment at the start of all of this where everyone who makes it to the semifinals, which would be the final 4 in each bracket, will be given an opportunity to lead towards a title shot. And my mindset behind that was, since this is such a big tournament to begin with, I didn't want to use it to just get 2 contenders, 1 champ out of it. So whoever makes it to the semifinals, we're going to be having a little mini setup called the bronze bracket, which will be the 4 players who are eliminated in the semifinals. You'll have to win 2 matches, obviously, but whoever wins that little 3-match setup will get a title shot, and vice versa. The losers of both finals from the tournament, as well as the final from the title match, will play off in a triple threat match, with the winner of that triple threat match getting a number 1 contender, or they'll play for a number 1 contendership. They'll also have to play 2 matches to get back to it. And by that point, we'll have found a number 1 contender through our normal league setup. So this tournament, whoever makes it, these 8 matches, the players we're talking about, the winners, the people who win these next 8 matches are going to be the people that are in the title picture for the foreseeable next couple of months. Because obviously the 2 winners of the tournament have that chance. Then you have the bronze bracket, and the losers of all 3 of the finals, whether it be the tournament finals or the actual finals, will get a second chance as well. And that's not counting anything that could mess it up from Joe, who does still have, as we gave him at the start from the producers, he has that champ's token option where, because he was a champ who never got the chance to defend because the league went on hiatus, he's playing in the tournament. He isn't the champ, he is the honorary champ. But should he lose, he has the option to just become the champ and defend against the winner of the 1-0 bracket instead of them 2 playing off the bat. So there's a lot of title opportunity that's coming. These next few matches are some of the most important, because from here on out, whoever wins these 8 matches is going to have a path to a title shot one way or another. So I'd say right now these 8 matches are going to be huge for the future of what the league looks like. And I say this now because he's not here, but God help me, I hope Noah beats me, because the last thing I want is to be the guy who produces the show in the running for a title match. That is not.
Well, and that's like when in the Schmodown a couple of years back, Christian Harloff won the title while he was like the commissioner, and he was like, "There's no scenario where I come out of this looking good. If I win, I'm the champion who's also promoting himself, and if I lose, or it was some scenario, but yeah, when he became the champion, he was like, oh God damn it, like come on." But yeah, I one thing I will say, Aaron, is I don't envy you having to track all this. I do appreciate your hard work. Like and all this stuff I had never actually seen a bracket, but the way you've described, like we had to sub this or this, or I know it's been chaotic, but I do appreciate the hard work and you sticking with it. So I will throw you credit here at the end.
Having the literal brackets, like behind the scenes, having an actual bracket to look at has helped a lot. It's made it much more sane than just looking at a schedule and a document. But guys, we are reaching the hour mark, which will make this one of the shortest videos we've ever produced. With that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. On behalf of everyone that is here with me, Noah Mccosland, who had to step out early, Mr. Jake Reese, Austin Howell, and Jacob Barber, I thank you guys for your time and being here and helping me kind of talk about and commentate on these matches. And I speak to all of you guys watching. I hope that you guys enjoy the matches as they're coming. Again, everything that I'm doing right now, I'm doing simply because the feedback I'm getting is that people are enjoying this. And I will continue to do it as long as A, I feasibly still can, and B, people are enjoying it. So with all the shit show antics aside and things that have gone wrong, that's just lessons to learn for the future. With that lesson being, I'm not doing a tournament in 2022. Fuck that shit. This is too much. But we're going to stick through the end. We're going to see what happens, and we will have a champ sooner rather than later. With that said, though, on behalf of my 3 guys here, I do want to take the time to thank as well my fellow producers behind the scenes who do help with everything that I need them to. I know the appearance is that I do everything, and I do a lot because I've been able to streamline it in such a way where it's not that much of a burden. But anytime I need something, whether it be help writing a match, help hosting a match, production behind the scenes for whatever reason, again, Matt Beer, Kevin Poss, Jacob West, and Henry Sanchez have been there every step of the way to help get this done, which has been a huge help to me knowing I have guys I can rely on. And I also want to thank the players for, nobody has shown up thus far and very obviously half-assed it. I've had people show up with little prep, but they still give it 110%, and that's all I ask because I think it makes it more entertaining. And I want to thank my judges, which I do want to make this a case in point. I said it to the judges in our big group chat that we have. But for all the issues we've had thus far in setting up matches, not one match has been delayed, rescheduled, canceled, or adjusted because of issues with our judges. Everyone who has helped out thus far, which is why they have the credit at the end of every video, you guys have contributed a huge part to this show and making sure that we're running and operating in such a way that the players want, because as has been said before, this used to be a show where it was one person judging it, and usually that one person was also the person producing it, which meant it was me. And I think it's been a lot more entertaining having different personalities interchange out every match and kind of making it that interesting who can say what to hit what person. It makes it more fair and it makes it more entertaining. So with that said, guys, this has kind of been a little bit of an interlude. As I said, next week we have Joe Fairley versus Chad Webb, which will be the final regular match of the season going up. And then following that, we have 3 exhibition matches. We have a Christmas match, which is between the man below me, Mr. Jacob Barber, as well as Kevin Poss and Brian Nussbaum. And for what it's worth, these 3 guys have done a really cool thing, which I'll explain more in the match. But in order for me to use a match to test out our triple threat format, which has not been used yet, these 3 guys have offered to actually put their records on the line meaning this match will count for stats and it will be a full triple threat match. Jacob's saying 0-2. That's confidence, baby. So these guys have been willing to put their records on the line and play.
Prep those non sequitur jokes, Jacob, and you'll throw everybody off like you did in my match. So please keep it going.
And then following that as well, before the end of the year, we have our first Wizarding World exhibition match, which will be between the two men.
Which I won nothing part of. Thank you.
Jay Burns and Amaru Moses. Chris Diaz is also unfortunately thrown in the middle of those two, so that'll be an interesting one.
Holy shit.
And then we have our 2021 in film match, which will go up the last exhibition match before the end of the year. And that match will feature the man who's actually just here, Noah Mccosland. It also features JD Domash and a debutant in Will, scrolling through my phone so I don't get his name wrong. Will Cohen. I apologize, Will. I only just met you through text recently. But yeah, Will Cohen will be playing that match alongside JD Domash and Noah Mccosland. And then we'll be into the new year, and I can tell you the first match of the new year when we're back on regular upload will be Jay Burns versus Amaru Moses. So you won't have to wait long for that one. But with that said, again, at this point I'm rambling. Thank you guys for everyone who's done everything. It's been a hell of a year, and despite the fact that we have a few matches left, I look forward to the best of it in 2022. And on behalf of Movie Battleground, my name is Aaron Knoll, and we will see you next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care.